I told my mother to keep my pregnancy a secret, but she ignored me. I just spent the weekend moving to our new home. It was so tiresome I could barely keep my eyes open past 9 p.m. My parents came to help us, and they outdid themselves this time. They bought new home equipment, helped move furniture, boxes, cleaning, you name it. I am deeply grateful for what they did for us and told them so. By the way, this comes from user I love Tarto Phrases. And if you want to submit your own stories, go to the r/OK Storytime subreddit. So, because there must be a but in this story. On Sunday, I received a congratulatory comment on my Facebook about my pregnancy from someone I didn't even know she knew. I clicked on the link, and it was one of 15 other comments on a picture of me and my mom posted without telling me. No big deal, right? The trouble is, I specifically asked her to keep my pregnancy to our close family, my parents and my brothers. Even my husband hadn't told all of his own family members. I especially didn't want her sister to know yet because she recently turned into an extremist religious person and is well known to not respect any boundary whatsoever. I am 36 years old. It is my first pregnancy, and I know the rate of health issues with the baby. I have enough fears like that. I don't need to deal with my crazy aunt if we need to deal with the inevitable. I simply wanted to wait a little to have the green light from my OBGYN to feel at ease sharing this news with loved ones without it turning into a show on Facebook. I am quite reserved and like my privacy, especially during such an intimate event. Well, I read the comment, didn't answer, and wanted to calm down before saying anything to my mom. When we were all leaving, I took my mother aside and calmly told her I would really like her to not share my pregnancy on Facebook since I'm uncomfortable and not all of my husband's close relatives are in the loop yet. She just said that she didn't have ill meaning. It turns out once in the car, she got a phone call with a friend and had a lengthy conversation about me and my pregnancy with someone she never told me she told. I really tried to keep my cool. I waited a few minutes to have a serious conversation about it. I remembered not to start with negative words or accusations, so it went like this. Quote, Mom, I know you didn't have ill meaning, but I'd like to know who knows about my pregnancy. I kept my voice even. Well, she transformed into a hysteric, accusing me of so many things, I don't even know where to start. I'm ungrateful, I'm unfair, I disrespected her. She has the right to speak about my pregnancy to whomever she pleases. I tried 3 or 4 times to tell her I'd like to tell you something until my dad, who was driving, told her to let me speak. I started like this. Quote, Mom, I'm 36 years old. 1/4 of pregnancies at my age will stop by themselves. I have a much higher risk of developing complications. And then she cut me off, mocking me, saying I was too melodramatic and abnormal to not be willing to share the news. After all that was said, I lost my crap. Not a proud moment, but I could not support being there and telling her about my most profound fears and then being mocked. I told her the only person that had any right to this pregnancy is me and my husband, and that I had the exact same conversation about privacy with my mother-in-law, but at least she had the decency to send an email to the person she spoke to about us and not make a freak show on Facebook. And she understood my reservations and asked for forgiveness. I told her she was in hysterics because she got caught red-handed and hadn't the balls to recognize it and was trying to shift the blame. She tried to deny I asked for discretion, told me she would have preferred that I hadn't told her. I told her I did tell her. I asked her what I was supposed to do if the baby had big health issues. I told her I would never deal with her crazy sister if such a thing were to happen. I told her I never shared anything about her on Facebook because it was her private life. Why does she think I didn't deserve the same privacy? And finally, I told her it's cool, she had no fears, but I do have profound fears, and asked her if it was too much to respect. Silence ensued. They dropped me at my place. I told my father goodbye, turned to my mom, and she asked me if I wasn't about to tell her goodbye. I asked her if she would again mock my fears, and she tried again to shift the blame. I told her I just defended myself, and I went away. Reddit, I don't know how to deal with this. We're supposed to spend a week with them on Christmas, but I am so tired of this BS. I cannot tell her the slightest thing without it blowing out of proportion. I just need to take their gifts and shut up if I'm not an ungrateful witch. I am so tired of this. How can I keep my family and my mental health at the same time? Blown away by the comments and support you're giving me. I'd like to thank every one of you. I really needed some validation about being hurt by all of this. I don't know yet what we're going to decide about Christmas, but for the moment, I'm going no contact. And as always, she tried to be helpful in some way, so as we keep contact without resolving anything. This is very typical of her. Like when I was a kid, she used to drop money on my desk after we had an argument. I learned a long time ago that anything I told her could be turned against me. I guess I was naive to open up to her. I won't make that mistake again. Thank you again. There's a second edit, and then a little update, and we're still going to do the second little edit. There are a lot of advices about not going to Christmas, and as appealing as it sounds, my mother is currently undergoing breast cancer treatment. Chemo is over, thank God, but still, she has a protocol to follow. And we already lost my grandmother last year, her mom, so I don't have the heart to miss Christmas with her and my family. I'll probably cut the time there, though, and avoid any pregnancy topics. After reflection, my husband and I decided to join my family on Christmas at my parents' home, but we cut short the holidays. It went well, and we were all happy to share and celebrate the news of my pregnancy with my brothers, aunt, and cousins, and my mother didn't stir up any more drama. Good. After that, my parents came to visit us on 3 occasions to help us settle in, paint the rooms, blah, 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 all pretty chill. But everything came to an end after 4 days after I gave birth to our precious baby boy. And I'm still completely at a loss about what she was able to tell me. So I gave birth last Thursday. My parents wanted to visit us and meet the little one. They called us to tell us they were coming on Sunday. No problem. First, very strange thing that happened on Saturday. We received a text telling us they were on their way and arriving in the afternoon. Okay, I guess. My parents, especially my father, are usually quite respectful about time and schedule, so it was a bit odd that they didn't ask us first, but no big deal. They came, they met the baby, but they couldn't stay more than 2 hours at the hospital and were coming back on Sunday. Sunday arrived, and my husband and I were expecting my parents any minute, since they knew visits on Sunday finish earlier. We spent all day waiting for them with no notice whatsoever. Finally, they arrived at 5 o'clock. Bear in mind, I had just given birth. I breastfeed my baby, so I barely sleep at night and wake up super early. So at 5 p.m., I'm simply exhausted. When they arrived, I asked them what they were doing all day long since we were expecting them. My mother replied they didn't want to disturb my neighbor. I had to share my hospital room with another lady and her baby. And she spent the day cleaning up our house, which was clean, by the way, but my mother is a bit obsessed with cleaning up. So I thanked my mom for the cleaning, but told her I would have rather they came earlier. On Monday, I was released, and we all headed home. My mother took my husband shopping. She bought us enough food to feed an army, diapers, a new vacuum, and a barbecue. So, she's all giddy with these new purchases. We are really grateful and thank her, but honestly, we did not ask nor need so much. The day went well, except I noticed my baby asking for more feeding. My husband asked my parents if they could stay with me on Wednesday, since he exceptionally had to go back to work all day long, and I was a bit anxious to stay alone from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m., and they agreed. On Tuesday, we were all at home, but we needed to go back to the hospital for a routine exam. The trouble was it took me half the day to secure an appointment to get it done. By the time we arrived there, my slight headache from the previous night had gotten bigger. The baby was still asking for more feeding, and now we were stuck in the exam room with the screams of babies surrounding us. Of course, our baby boy was growing anxious too. Doctors and pediatric nurses told us everything was all right and we were free to go. We came back home and the baby literally latched on to my front airbag, and I'm impossible to let him go for 5 minutes without screaming. Now my mother is growing anxious too and telling me I probably need to complement his feeding with milk. My head is about to explode no matter what medicine I take. My midwife called me to check on me. I told her what was happening, and she simply replied that it is completely normal and that the baby was disturbed twice in his routine, first from the hospital to our house and then to the hospital again. And since all the signs are positive that he's gaining weight and being correctly hydrated and fed, I only have to feed him as he asks and keep him close to us, and it will pass. She was about to visit us at home the following morning. I spent almost 5 hours nonstop nursing. By the time my husband arrived home, my head was unaliving me. I was dehydrated, sore, stressed, as I have never been, starving, and exhausted. Thankfully, my parents made me dinner. My husband took the baby so that I could eat. I barely had time to eat 2 mouthfuls before my mother went at me again, telling me I needed to compliment my milk, that I was not feeding him properly. I could feel what was going on in my mom's head. She was absolutely anxious and stressed and pouring it all onto me. I repeated again what the doctor and the pediatric nurses and my midwife told me, that it's normal, he's gaining weight every day, and there's nothing to do at the moment, and my midwife will be there at 9 a.m. the following day. She replied that I needed to ask again until I had another answer, maybe an answer that she liked and agreed with. Now, the baby is screaming again, my headache is splitting my brain in 1,000 pieces, and I lost it. I told her to stop it. I couldn't bear to hear another negative comment, and that I knew what she was doing, making me bear her own anxiety, whereas I already had my own fears to bear. I just couldn't take any more. My father interjected that it was not a negative comment. My husband interrupted us to tell me that the baby just needed to have his diaper changed and to relax, and my mother started screaming at me that she wanted to leave, that she was there because we asked for her help, that she spent too much money on us two, and that I always take her as a scapegoat. I replied that I just gave birth, had a bloody headache for 2 days, and was nursing for 5 hours, and that I was at the end of my rope, and I just needed support and not criticism. And the cherry on the cake was her response: "If you're at the end of your rope, then you need to see a psychiatrist." I asked her if she really thought she was helping me at that moment, and that if she couldn't understand that now was not the time for her to play victim, I really had nothing else to say. She yelled at me, saying she didn't want to hear anything else. I just told her, then go. Take your presents with you, since you always throw them in my face. I went back to my room, trying to close my eyes for a minute to ease my migraine. 10 minutes passed, and my husband came back with our baby, and everything was silent. He told me my parents went away without even telling him goodbye. He was alone, trying to calm our son in the bathroom, came out asking for a hand, and found no one. 10 minutes later, my migraine went away, and our baby was sound asleep. Yeah, they left us at midnight without even telling me, without even telling my husband, who did nothing but tried to bring peace into this bloody mess. I've never felt so disgusted in my life. And just to be clear, when my midwife came the following day, she examined our son and assured me he was perfectly fine. He gained 70 grams in 1 day. The average is 50 grams. I told her what happened, and she understood completely that my mother was projecting something about her own story onto me, and that it wasn't fair nor healthy for me or the baby. The baby actually could feel the tension and was expressing it through his screams. So, here I am, Reddit. I haven't had any news from them since their departure 2 days ago. I've got the temptation to expose this story to the whole family, first to let them realize how awful they were to us, and secondly to warn my brothers that my mother is perhaps losing her head. But I really don't know what to do. Yesterday, I received a weird message in my Facebook inbox. Apparently, it was destined for my mother-in-law, but somehow arrived in my inbox. And my mother was inviting her to her home and telling her how happy she was for us and for our baby, as if nothing had happened. This is insane. So far, we're going no contact until a proper apology. What would you do?